Hello and welcome to Channel's Book Club. I am Olakunle Kasumo. One of the things that bothers writers is how best they can get people to know about their works. It's a tricky subject because there are many possible options while books are often created on shoestring budgets. Perhaps it depends on resources available, location, markets, and other factors. But the idea of creating video trailers is getting popular and can be effective. More writers and publishers are creating interesting trailers to provide teasers for their books. Remember, we once hosted Ibitola Ojay Aito, author of the novel titled Acceptance. As an example, here's the trailer for her book. That probably got you curious about Ibitola's book, right? Here's another trailer for one of the most interesting historical thriller novels set in Nigeria.
Hello, sir.
Thanks for being a part of this change. Congrats for making history.
Yes! Yes!
The trailer says coming soon, but that was then. The book has since been out and has received good reviews. The Night of a Red Moon is based on a series of events that happened at Agoiwoye, the host community for Olabisi Onabanjo University. Ojay Aito, its author, joined us to review the book and share his story. Enjoy this. Ojay, nice to have you on Channel's Book Club.
Thank you so much for having me.
We've been looking forward to hosting you.
Yeah, finally, I'm here.
Night of a Red Moon.
Yep.
This is one of my favorite Nigerian books.
Oh.
I'm serious.
Can I say it again, please?
It is.
Can you say it again?
It is. Night of a Red Moon. Maybe
you.
because I'm a thriller fan. I like thriller. When I do fiction,
Okay.
I like my books to be thriller.
Oh, wow.
I do read other genres, but I like thrillers. And then also because I'm a history buff,
Okay.
and your book is based on something that happened, which we'll talk about,
Okay. Yeah.
you know, in recent history
Yeah.
in Nigeria.
Yeah.
So one could describe this as a historical fiction. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it combined my two areas.
Okay.
And then apart from that, it really is a very good story. It's a very engaging, emotional, thrilling story. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done. Okay, so so this is a fan here interviewing you.
Thank you so much. I don't know how to. Don't know to thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so
Yeah.
tell me about. Let's talk generally, then we'll come down to this book. Generally, when did you start writing, and where are you taking your writing to?
When I say writing, not necessarily reading, but generally writing.
Yeah, as a writer.
Okay. Like every gift, this is not a gift. I won't call it a gift actually. I think it was born out of routine, the need to write for my dad every other day. He was an academic, and every other day before he left home, he gave me essays to write and letters to write, majorly English, stuff to write. And
Just as assignments.
yes, and I had to write letters, I had to write essays, I had to write articles every single day.
Every day.
Yes, that was from, I think, as soon as I got to my senior school. For the 3 years, I wrote virtually every day.
Oh.
And that was just to make sure that I passed my English language and all of that. But as soon as I was done with my O levels, it was done with me. But unfortunately, I couldn't stop writing. And that birthed the passion. And because of my imaginative skills and my melancholy nature, I always withdrew to myself. I love discussing and chatting with myself a lot. So in my mind, I create stuff. I create stories, and I write them out.
Just write them out.
Before we know it, I had a lot of stories that never left my room, and today we have this.
Yeah, that's good. And you do study writing, don't you?
Yes.
Don't you?
I kind of, yeah.
I think so. Well, I don't know. Well, I mean, because when I read, the tall blades of grass parted before Femi's flailing hands as he ran through the overgrown field. He could hear the footsteps and chants behind him, unmetrical and discordant, like a host of barbarians marching against an alien invasion of their abode. Yeah. That's pretty good writing.
Oh, thank you again.
Okay, and I could see his heart thumped against his sternum, his chest burned, and his lungs demanded for more oxygen. What he really wanted to do was stop and just breathe. But he knew he couldn't. Of course, that's the story that's how you started the book.
Yeah.
Femi, who then got killed.
Yeah.
But let's talk generally.
Okay.
This novel is based on something that happened at Agoiwe.
Yes.
Some years ago. Tell me about that.
Okay. There's a true life part of this story, and there's a fictitious part of it. So the true life part had to do with once upon a time in the month of June 2005. There had been the issue between the indigenes of the town and the students who lived in the town.
Ogun State University, Olabisi Onabanjo.
And it turned
bloody.
And yes, people had to run for their lives, and we had to experience.
Students were killed.
Yeah, right. It was reported that students were killed, and so many people had irreparable injuries and what have you. And the story came out, and I experienced my own part of the story, and
you were there. You were students.
I was a student at that time in the school, and yes, we came out. Some of us were lucky to come out alive, and I had to tell my story. It was impossible for me to allow the crisis go without me getting something out of it. So I had to sit down at the point, and I had to,
So that formed the core of the story. That's preserving history, really.
Yeah.
Historical fiction.
Yeah.
But that event is not well documented in Nigeria, is it? I don't know. Is that correct?
Bias when it comes to what we see on paper, what is documented. For example, those who are indigenous would prefer to tell the story in a way that would suit
from their perspective.
And those who were affected by the story, by the events, will probably paint the story in a different light. So it will take you to see from both points of view,
different
perspective,
angles,
for you to have a conclusion about what the exact story, was like, which I tried so much to do, in this story, even though at a point, I had to put in a lot of fictitious, ideas.
Of course, to make it interesting. Yeah. I like books and movies that are based on true life stories. Yeah. They are different from, for example, a movie, a biopic.
Yeah.
That is the story of somebody.
Yeah.
Say, for example, The Founder, which is a movie about the Ray Kroc of
Ray Kroc
McDonald's.
yeah.
Okay, so it's a biopic.
Yeah.
But I also like when there's a lot of fictional ideas
Yeah.
that really make that story interesting. Because in reality, you can't have all the details
True.
of an historical event.
True.
So for you to turn it into a book or a movie, you really have to
Yeah.
build
Yeah.
a lot of fiction
Yeah.
around it. But the core remains real. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely true. Absolutely true. Someone called me one day and said, "Yeah, I can tell exactly where the reality and where the fiction met." You get
in your book.
In the book, because he also experienced that particular night.
Nice.
And he was glad that I was able to put in a lot of, he called it juice, the fictitious part, into the real mix of events. Without that, the story would have been an entirely horrendous story, like absolutely, terrible story to hear or to tell.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, coming down to the specifics, it's basically you told the story from the perspective of 4 young guys.
Yes.
And their girls.
And their girls.
And their girls. Were you one of those 4?
I've been asked this question.
Confession time.
I've been asked this question over 1,000,000 times if I actually wanted to count. And I've done myself the good rule of not telling anybody who I was or what I am in the novel.
That keeps the mystery.
And so I would, truth be told, my wife doesn't even know
she's not even sure
who I am, because.
But you are somewhere there.
I think I'm everything that ever existed in this.
But there's a particular character there that
I'm not saying
I'm
anything
going to find
about
out.
that.
I'm going to find out.
Unfortunately. So I was at an interview some time ago, and the guy asked, he spent like 5 minutes trying to drill me out to make sure I told him who. And I said, look, if I actually want to go with any character, it probably would be the Imam. And you wonder how would a young guy like me, have myself put in an Imam. But hey, that's the good thing about writing. I have to put myself in virtually every one of them.
So there's no character that was you particularly.
I refuse to answer that question.
Smart. Okay, I will leave you to enjoy that secret.
Thank you so much.
For the rest of your life, I'm guessing.
Well, if you give me $1 million for it,
you might let it out.
Yeah.
Okay, but so 4 young guys and their girls.
Yeah.
You built the story around them, and I like there was romance.
Yes.
There, like is it Tamor, the 2 pen lovers?
Okay. Tubor and
Temi, yes, the 2 pen lovers who then eventually met.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they met on the disastrous day, terrifying day when everything went south. So I like that. How did you? What was going through your mind as you created those characters?
Okay, this particular story of Tubor and Temi, a friend of mine experienced that real life. I mean, he had a friend who he had never met before, who was planning to come check him out in school and all of that.
They had been exchanging letters or something.
Letters, phone calls, text messages, back in the day, midnight calls and what have you. And on the day she came into town, this guy, the night before that day, had been robbed in his room. And so I had to take that story. I picked up our own, the whole story. I just cooked it up and made it something that was good for this particular story.
Okay, so that's interesting. But I mean, it's also there were parts of your book that were really scary.
Okay.
There were parts that were very emotional, very. I mean, just as I read, I said to myself, how much of this, really happened? How much of this was true?
Yeah.
And all that. And there are also parts that were fun.
Okay.
And enjoyable.
Yeah.
And of course, like I said, the romantic bits.
Yeah.
And the way everything came together at the end.
Yeah.
The reader wouldn't see them coming. At least the very the very central characters.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Femi who died at the beginning in
Yeah.
the prologue,
Yeah.
and who he was, finding out who he was late in the book, and so on. So that was pretty good.
Thank you.
Are you what kind of responses are you getting from this?
Beyond words, beyond what I could have thought of, I sometimes, just imagine what people would tell me. But eventually when I meet them, or probably when they just finish reading my book and they get to find my email or some contact or some stuff, they write an epistle of what they think, of what they thought, of what they hoped would not happen and what eventually happened, and their grievances with me, just for writing in the way I wrote and all of that. And I would say that it just came out of sheer waiting for the perfect idea to come, because at the point I had to put a book down. I had to put a book down to just say, okay, I think at this point I'm saturated. I need to ease off so that I could bring everything together. I spent close to 3 years writing this book. 2009 was when I started writing it, and I was done 2011.
Whoa.
Putting all of it together.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't have time again. Let me run through one or two questions very, very briefly.
Okay.
Now, what are you writing now?
I'm writing mysticism, magic. I'm writing the future. Let's see, 65 years into the Nigerian future.
Whoa.
Yep.
That must be challenging.
So probably you won't be alive at that time.
65 years?
Yeah.
Are you
the
sure?
future.
65 plus. I might be alive.
I'm scared.
Okay. Okay. Now, so you're writing that now.
Yeah.
It's almost ready.
Yeah, I think it's ready, but I'm not in a rush to.
But you also do blog writings and
yeah,
so
I
on.
used to. I had to try for me to know that I wasn't supposed to be a blogger. But if I had not tried, I probably would have felt bad that I never tried. But I tried blogging for about 3-4 years, and when I was at that point, I took over that yes, this was a no-go area for me, because I couldn't just focus to do that every other day. I would rather sit down and focus on my manuscript.
Final question in a few seconds.
All right.
If I put it in a corner, who will be your favorite all-time writer, and which book would you recommend for me to read?
Do you know the guy called Viet Nyang?
No.
I hope I'm pronouncing the name well, but he wrote the book The Sympathizer. Go find that book. It's a book.
Is it a Nigerian writer?
No, it's not. It's a Vietnamese American professor, English professor. Yes. The book will never leave you the same.
That's your favorite writer and your favorite book?
My favorite book. Stephen King is probably my favorite writer.
Stephen King?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you very much
My pleasure.
for joining us on
Thanks
Channels
for
Book
having
Club.
me.
It's a pleasure
Yes, sir.
hosting you.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you so much, sir.